The James Bond franchise has undergone numerous transformations since its inception in 1962. While Sean Connery's portrayal of the British secret agent defined the character in the 1960s, each successive actor has brought their own distinct interpretation of the iconic spy. However, no portrayal has resonated as perfectly with its time as Pierce Brosnan's rendition of James Bond in 1995's GoldenEye. Brosnan's Bond not only reinvigorated the franchise after a 6-year hiatus, but also marked the character's seamless transition into the post-Cold War era. His suave, yet relatable portrayal of the spy embodied the spirit of the 1990s, combining the classic elements of Bond with a more modern sensibility. Brosnan was, without a doubt, the right Bond at the right time.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
James Bond's earlier incarnations, primarily those played by Sean Connery and Roger Moore, reflected the times in which they were made. Connery's Bond embodied the post-World War II era, where global power struggles, espionage, and the threat of nuclear war defined international relations. Meanwhile, Moore's Bond, introduced in the 1970s, was characterized by a more flamboyant, light-hearted style, emblematic of the more glamorous and escapist nature of the Bond films in the late Cold War era. Timothy Dalton's portrayal, which began in Living Daylights in 1987 and ended with License to Kill in 1989, was a departure from Moore's lighter approach. Dalton's Bond was darker, more serious, and grounded in a world that was beginning to show the cracks of the Cold War's final years. This change was due in part to the geopolitical tensions that defined the late 1980s, but also a desire to return to the character's roots in Ian Fleming's novels, where Bond was a more morally ambiguous and cynical figure. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 and the end of the Cold War presented a significant shift in the global political landscape. As the world entered the 1990s, the threats that once defined Bond's universe, chiefly the monolithic presence of the Soviet Union and its agents, were no longer relevant. The world was faced with new dangers: global terrorism, rogue states, and technological threats. The classic Bond formula needed to evolve, and the James Bond franchise needed a new face, one that could capture the changing dynamics of the time while still embodying the timeless qualities of the character. Pierce Brosnan's casting as James Bond in GoldenEye was a brilliant choice. Having gained recognition through roles like Remington Steele, Brosnan possessed the charm, sophistication, and ruggedness to bring the character into the 1990s. His portrayal balanced the suave coolness of Connery's Bond with the wit and humor of Moore's, while introducing a modern take on the character. Brosnan didn't simply imitate his predecessors, he made Bond his own, adding a depth and complexity that suited the post-Cold War world. This blend of old and new was key to Brosnan's enduring success as Bond. He even kept the classic double entendres.
It appears we share the same passions. 3, anyway.
I count 2. Motoring and baccarat.
8 pour la banque. 7. Madame wins.
I hope the 3rd is where your real talent lies.
One rises to meet a challenge.
The world of GoldenEye was shaped by the rapidly changing political landscape. With the Cold War over, the United States and the West were no longer facing a unified enemy in the Soviet Union. The disintegration of the USSR left a void in global politics, and new threats emerged, including international terrorism, rogue states, and cyber warfare. This evolving landscape demanded a more adaptable Bond, one who could confront these challenges without losing the qualities that made him iconic. Brosnan's Bond rose to these challenges with realism and modernity. In GoldenEye, Bond's use of technology was essential to his mission, no longer just a gimmick. The film's central villain, Alec Trevelyan, embodied a more complex threat than past antagonists, blending technology with ideology. Bond could no longer rely on sheer strength or gadgets alone. He had to outthink and outmaneuver his enemies in a rapidly changing environment. This shift mirrored the real-world geopolitical changes, making Brosnan's cerebral Bond a perfect fit for the time. The success of GoldenEye was not just due to Brosnan's performance, but also the film's tone, which captured the spirit of the era. While previous Bond films, particularly those of Roger Moore, were known for their lightheartedness and larger-than-life action, GoldenEye struck a balance, blending thrilling action sequences with sharp wit and emotional depth. The result was a film that appealed to a broad range of audiences, combining the excitement of past Bond films with a more modern, complex narrative. Brosnan's Bond embraced the fun and adventurous spirit of Moore's films while introducing a more serious, contemporary edge.
Beg your pardon? Forgot to knock.
One key aspect of GoldenEye's success was its theme song, performed by Tina Turner. Her powerful and energetic performance perfectly matched the tone of the film, delivering a memorable and iconic anthem for the 007 franchise. The song, also titled GoldenEye, became an instant classic, with Turner's distinctive voice and the song's dramatic orchestration fitting perfectly into the film's intense yet glamorous atmosphere. The choice of Tina Turner, a musical legend, elevated the film and added to its cultural relevance. The GoldenEye theme remains one of the best in the series and stands out as a major highlight of the film. One notable change in GoldenEye was the reimagining of the character M, who had traditionally been portrayed as a male figure in previous Bond films. With Judi Dench stepping into the role, M became not only a powerful and authoritative figure, but also a symbol of the evolving nature of the Bond series. Dench's portrayal of M was groundbreaking at the time, offering a fresh, authoritative presence that contrasted with the traditional dynamic between Bond and his superiors. This shift was in line with broader cultural changes of the 1990s, where strong female characters were becoming more prominent in leadership roles. Much like Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager, who was one of the first female captains in a major science fiction series,
there's coffee in that nebula.
M's character reflected a growing trend of powerful women in positions of authority on screen. These characters served as positive female role models, strong, intelligent, and capable leaders who commanded respect. Dench's M was a crucial part of GoldenEye's success, providing a grounded, modern leadership presence that resonated with audiences and furthered the film's relevance to its time without detracting from the original spirit of the film series. The 1990s were a time of both global optimism and underlying uncertainty. The end of the Cold War was seen as a victory for the West, but it also brought new challenges in the form of globalization, economic disparity, and emerging threats like terrorism. GoldenEye tapped into these concerns by presenting a Bond who was adaptable, skilled in both physical and intellectual combat, and capable of navigating a more complex world. The film's appeal lay not just in its action, but in its ability to capture the spirit of the 1990s, an era defined by change, uncertainty, and a growing reliance on technology. Ultimately, Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of James Bond in GoldenEye was a perfect fit for the 1990s. His Bond was suave and sophisticated, but also human and vulnerable, reflecting the changing dynamics of both the character and the world around him. The end of the Cold War called for a shift in Bond's character, and Brosnan's performance provided that evolution. His Bond confronted the new threats of the post-Cold War world, terrorism, rogue states, and cyber warfare, while maintaining the core elements that made him an icon. GoldenEye stands out as a turning point in the James Bond franchise, with Brosnan's magnetic portrayal helping define a new era for 007, proving he was the right Bond at the right time.
She always did enjoy a good squeeze.